The Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power's timeline compression may not work as seamlessly as the same trick did in Peter Jackson's movie trilogy. Amazon's The Rings of Power draws largely upon tales from the Silmarillion, which many have long considered impossible to adapt in live action. The book's major events take place across millennia, with the Second Age alone surpassing 3,000 years. As showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay have since explained, The Rings of Power condenses Tolkien's Second Age into a single period of time. This is why Isildur is already alive before Sauron's return to Middle-earth, even though the Númenórean hero should be born over 1,500 years after the Dark Lord's comeback. The Rings of Power isn't the first live-action compression of J.R.R. Tolkien's timeline. In Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Frodo Baggins inherits the One Ring from Bilbo and sets off on his quest almost immediately. That's the impression, at least. In Tolkien's original book, Frodo receives the ring on Bilbo's birthday, but keeps it safe in the Shire for another 17 years before Gandalf finally realizes it's probably best the Hobbit starts running away. Jackson squeezes those years Frodo spent hiding the ring into an almost negligible amount of time. This is an example of a Lord of the Rings movie change that succeeds. Every significant event from those 17 years, Gollum's capture, Gandalf's realization, etc., can feasibly happen much faster, so Jackson's The Fellowship of the Ring isn't losing material by shortening the timeline. Whether Frodo leaves the Shire after 17 days or 17 years doesn't meaningfully impact Tolkien's narrative or characters, and the faster pacing works better on the big screen. Inevitably, truncating half of the Second Age isn't as problem-free. The Rings of Power appears to be fitting everything from Sauron's return to the last alliance of elves and men inside Isildur's adulthood, which amounts to a maximum of 200 years. Unlike Frodo's relatively uneventful 17-year calm before the storm in Bag End, many great deeds happened during this period. The creation of the rings, war against Sauron, the founding of numerous major locations, the rise and fall of Númenor. Even if the Rings of Power somehow can narrow down such a vast history into a single point, doing so would make Tolkien's mythology feel considerably smaller in scale.